I can confidently say 110% without a single doubt. If you do not own precious metals, you are going to lose everything. I know that sounds crazy, but what is happening between Russia and China is far crazier. Welcome back, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. If you're new, welcome. I post daily videos, always giving you guys the inside scoop of what's happening geopolitically, economically, fundamentally, because all of those things directly affect the price of silver. I don't care if you're left, right, up, down, front, center, sideways, even to the middle or a little bit crooked. I don't care because this is not a political channel, but all of these things do affect the price of silver. So you get a little bit of everything. This video is going to be heavy, I have to say that, and there is a lot, and I mean a lot of information I'm going to be breaking down and dissecting, so make sure you stick around. If you want a chance to win some silver shipped straight to your front doorstep, all you have to do is click one button. That button is subscribe. Go enter. Link is in the description. May the luckiest stacker win. I'm not saying subscribe for my sake. I'm saying it for your own because you will never miss a beat on this channel. This title explains it all. Putin's revenge on America. In retaliation for our support for Ukraine, Russia and China just made a sinister financial move that could ruin the retirement of millions of Americans. Here's how to prepare. And then in quotes, if you have any US dollars in your bank account, you must prepare now or risk losing everything. And I'm going to stop for a second. We're talking about the BRICS nations. We're talking about things that Biden is doing, his decisions. We're talking about it all. This is heavy stuff. I'm going to try to stop and throw my 2 cents in as least as possible, usually with stuff this heavy, since there's so much substance and such a small amount of information. I tend to stop and pause and break things down way more, but I'll try to not do that as much, and I would love for you guys to comment your thoughts on this. So on August 24th, 2023, in retaliation for our support for Ukraine, President Putin, with the help of China, dropped a financial nuclear bomb on America. And if you don't make a simple tweak to your bank account right now, you could soon end up holding a bunch of worthless US dollars. That is very true. If you guys think that is not possible, it is very possible. Every fiat-based system lasts around a century. The US dollar, I think, is the longest lasting one, and it's due to have a reset. The dollar's lost 98% of its purchasing power. We're $35 trillion in debt now, and it's only getting worse. So precious metals is the only alternative, in my opinion. See, he knows that going into a war with America would be very, very bad news, or worse. He knows it could trigger a nuclear war that could wipe out humanity. So instead of using conventional weapons, he just attacked America with a financial move that could soon spell the ends of US dollars as we know it, and it makes perfect sense why. Yes, that is a great weapon, but it helps them and many other countries significantly. Why? The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Everyone across the world basically relies on the dollar, also meaning we have our greedy little fingers in everyone's pockets. So they're saying, why are we letting them do this? Why don't we create our own currency, a digital currency backed by physical commodities, cut them off? No longer using US dollars, especially since, COVID exposed how broke the United States truly is. And that's what's been happening. The BRICS nations stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Many other countries are now allying with them, and many more are signing up. It's much longer than you can go into the Belt Road Initiative, so on and so forth. There's a lot regarding this. If you guys want to know more, watch my podcast I do every week with Andy Scheckman. We are recording another episode tomorrow. I'll try to have it up tomorrow night, maybe the next day at latest. So it goes on to say, you see, Russia Russia and China just announced a deal with some of the globe's largest oil producers, including Saudi Arabia, and to dump the U.S. dollar from their oil trades. After the announcement, Putin said this de-dollarization is gaining momentum. This is something that's not only happening from the BRICS nations, but the United States is also trying to take action in our own hands without even mentioning that side of it, with with a lot of talk. And I mean even the Federal Reserve. You guys probably don't know this unless you watch my channel, but about 2 years ago there was a clip that actually showed the clip. I would have to go back and find it. I showed it on a podcast long time ago, years ago. But it was Federal Chairman Jerome Powell at an FOMC meeting publicly saying one day soon he could see a currency coexisting or even replacing the dollar. He said that to the public. That is real. It's very real. You have states that are already reverting back to the gold standard. There's like 3 or 4 states now, and like 23 have signed up. But he said, this is gaining momentum, and that the end of the dollar as the world's reserve currency is an irreversible process. But that's not the worst of it. The response from our government is even more terrifying. Okay, according to former vice president of a major U.S. investment bank, Tiki Tiwari, our government is planning to stop this de-dollarization trend by replacing every single dollar you have in your bank account with a new type of currency. And I'm sure you've heard of this. This is that, all that hype or talk about that CBDC or whatever. Tiki Tiwari began warning Americans that our own government would try to end the U.S. dollar as we know it as early as 2016. And now that his prediction is coming true, it's time for you to prepare. In the next 2 minutes, he will show you not only 3 steps to opt out of the new digital dollar, but also how to come out of this historic shift wealthier than ever. So I'm gonna say my honest opinion real quick. Regardless of what his solution is to this, how to come out wealthier than ever, I'm sure it has something to do with some type of stock or crypto. I don't care. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is exposing the information. My opinion is precious metals, physically tangible, physical precious metals, not the SLV or PSLV, physical precious metals. If you can't hold it, you don't own it. That doesn't, just because he might give another solution, which I don't know yet, I'm sure it is. Regardless, that's not the point, because all this information is still true, regardless of what he thinks you should do. We all know what to do. So he says U.S. dollar's already in free fall. Yeah. When I say it's lost 98% of its purchasing power, that's a literal percentage. Not 99%, not 97%. It's 98. And all over the media, all you see are headlines about the end of the U.S. dollar. I could go on, but the bottom line is the U.S. dollar is in big trouble. And I believe the U.S. government will soon announce a radical plan to stop this bleeding. They'll announce a mandatory national recall on the U.S. dollar and replace it with a new digital version that will be radically different from what you have in your bank account right now. And you need to prepare now, because they could officially announce this recall as soon as November 1st. And that's, as Business Insider says, U.S. Treasury's efforts to create a new digital currency could be imminent. And Bank of America is already warning its clients that all checking accounts are likely to be replaced with digital dollars. And it's not just Bank of America. And I made a video about this. It's 110 banks that are already planning to recall the U.S. dollar. They're blacklisting the dollar, and they make a list of every single bank. I made a video about that last week, if you guys want to check that out. It's very alarming. Now, a lot of this could be over-exaggerated or over-hyped. I'm sure this guy truly believes everything he's saying, but I also have to remember that not everyone is right. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody can predict the future. There's a lot of unknown variables. I do not personally think on November 1st or whatever, it's not going to be as severe as mentioned or as displayed in this. I do think it will happen. I don't think it will be to this, radical, extreme, one day everyone's in panic and your dollars are wiped out of your bank. I don't think it's going to be like that. I do think it will happen, but I think it will be more of a desensitization type of tactic where, kind of like how Bitcoin got integrated in our monetary system. It wasn't overnight, but nowadays there's Bitcoin ATMs everywhere. PayPal uses Bitcoin. Yeah, that Bitcoin boom was a lot, but people got desensitized as it kind of entered in. People didn't think of money as Bitcoin. They thought it was just something you could invest into. But regardless, who knows? Maybe I'm completely wrong. There is supposed to be an announcement tomorrow, which is November 1st, tomorrow. So who knows? Anyways, he goes on to say, once they make the official announcement, most Americans will be caught completely off guard. See, and they could end up holding a bunch of worthless U.S. dollars. I do not think that is realistic. I don't think that one day everyone's just going to be flat broke. I don't think it would look like that. I'm not going to buy into this. Maybe we live in crazy times, so expect crazy things to happen, and you have to prepare, which precious metals is the way to prepare. Regardless if it is this extreme or not, I'm still going to prepare. I'd still highly recommend people to put their money into precious metals because of graphs like this. What do you think about this, though? I'm not gonna be some hype man or anything, or mislead my audience. I'll call out if I think what this guy says is a bunch of BS. Like I'll say it honestly. I'm not gonna try to sit here and hype you guys up that silver's about to explode because tomorrow your money's gonna be out of your. No, that's some BS. I'm not gonna say that. And that's that CBDC thing. The largest central banks are starting to bring in big tech companies to research, design, and potentially launch central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. And just the 4 biggest central banks alone manage more than $28 trillion, which is insane because the U.S. national debt's $34 trillion. And they can print unlimited amounts of money on demand. And then he says this is where the opportunity comes in. This is where I think in that one video last week, he mentions this thing, and I mentioned my honest opinion on his thing. I'm not going to go there yet because there is some build-up. There's some context we have to go over, but check this out. There are potentially trillions of dollars involved in the development of these digital currencies. And let me stop real quick. This guy does have some credibility. Tiki Tuari was the owner of a huge investment bank, so it's not like this guy is just some nobody that just is spilling out some BS. This dude is credible. But anyways, if you know which companies are working on these CBDC projects, which assets would benefit from the dollar, you could come out of this U.S. dollar recall wealthier than you never thought possible, no matter what's happening with our economy, kind of like precious metals. But then he goes on to say that's why billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and the founder of Google, Larry Page, are all prepared to cash in this major shift. These guys also buy silver, not gold, silver. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Jim Rogers, everybody. I've made so many, Warren Buffett, I've made so many videos on billionaires that buy silver, specifically silver. Elon Musk buying a silver mine. There's a lot. And I personally he has already moved over $1 million of his own money in preparation for this recall. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you all the details. I'm going to show you a controversial video that proves that our financial authorities are planning a national recall. So I'll show you guys. I'll show you confirmation that we've already scheduled, or that they've already scheduled an official announcement for November 1st at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. Okay, well, that's tomorrow at 2 p.m., which that's interesting. Maybe I'll have to make a video covering that. And then he goes on to say, I'll explain why I believe they could make the recall that official day. So he's saying tomorrow the government might announce that they're recalling the dollar and going to CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies. We are, and this is what I was saying back when Bitcoin was popular. I feel like it's inevitable that we do go to a digital system. We are living in a new digital technological era. If you think of a futuristic sci-fi movie, if you think of their money, what's it going to look like? It's going to be digital. Cashless, cashless banks. Nobody's paying with cash anymore. Go to the store. A lot of places don't even accept cash anymore. And there's so many conveniences with digital. There is no Bitcoin of America, Bitcoin of, of China. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. It's decentralized, which is also one of the reasons why a lot of people think it wouldn't happen, because a centralized bank is in control. And if you invest in Bitcoin, you took the control away from them and put it in your own hands. So it's going to be something that's very, very centralized with I don't know how that would work. I mean, Tether is pegged to $1. USD coin is pegged to the dollar. Yeah, there's a crypto called USDC. It stands for USD coin. I used to think if they were going to revert to a crypto, it would be USD coin. But I mean, this one's pretty close. CBDC, central bank. What is it again? Central bank digital currency. So anyways, he says he'll mention the names and the ticker symbols completely free of charge. Feel free to write them down, because I believe their stocks, there's the word I was looking for, could skyrocket in the coming months. I always say this, investing in stocks is like switching seats on the Titanic, because if the dollar goes down, everything would with it. Nobody would trust the system whatsoever. That's why precious metals are safe havens. Stocks aren't safe havens. Who's investing in the stocks when the dollar's looking very, very weak, especially let alone collapsing? Go to precious metals. So anyway, that's the one thing I did not like about this. Well, it's not even I didn't like it. I just didn't agree with his opinion. I just don't agree with his opinion. But it doesn't mean that all this information isn't also correct and accurate. So anyways, he talked about Bitcoin in 2016. He invested $1,000 and walked away with $147,000 from that Bitcoin trade. Yeah, I mean, I started investing in Bitcoin in 2016 when it was like $800. So I made lots of videos back then explaining to people why I do think that you should invest, and I made a lot of people extremely wealthy from that. And I had I actually had the #1 video on YouTube back then. It was titled How to Buy Bitcoin for Beginners. It had hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of views. And, in that video, you could see on Coinbase, Bitcoin's price was $800 when I was making that video. And a lot of people bought from that video. And then Bitcoin hit up to, 60,000? So, yeah. Anyways, I'm not saying that to, toot my own horn. I'm just saying, there was a lot of potential back then. And a lot of people did capitalize on that. So, anyways, he's talking about opportunities with Bitcoin and Ethereum are gone, but in the next few minutes we'll give you ticker symbol, yada yada. If you guys want to go check that out, the link is in the description. He does mention, though, interesting, this digital dollar will be 100% controlled by the government, of course. They'll be able to track all of your purchases, of course. And are you really surprised that the government is taking advantage of a breakthrough technology like digital currency to accumulating more power? No. He goes, warning back then in 2016, I don't care, guy. I don't care that you called it out. That's irrelevant. Why do you have to say that you called it out? Just show the information. So it's a new terrifying trend called de-dollarization. So where major nations around the world are dumping US dollars in unison, the #1 world reserve currency, most countries use dollars to transact in global trade. For that reason, central banks must hold dollars in reserve. This has been the case since the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, which established the dollar as the world's main reserve currency. That agreement was a game changer. It created guaranteed demand for US dollars. It's why America became a superpower. It's also why President Trump says America will be a third world country if he doesn't win. So, here is the debt in trillions. Like I said, we're $34 trillion in debt. If you guys want a live ticker, it's usdebtclock.org. And then he says, our debt exploded in the last 2 decades. It's higher than 31 trillion. It's much higher than that now. And that's the equivalent of $94,000 per citizen. USDebtClock.org actually shows debt per citizen. It shows how many millionaires there are in America. It shows student loan debt. It shows everything on that site. It's very interesting. Then he goes on to say if that wasn't enough, in February 2022, Biden administration took that abuse to a whole other level by weaponizing the U.S. dollar in response to Russia's war with Ukraine. U.S. froze all of the dollar reserves of Russia's central bank, $630 billion. These were not American assets. That's crazy. These were dollars owned by the Russian central bank and the Russian people. So, of course, why do you, it's obvious and it's very understandable why they would create their own currency. But because they were held in U.S. dollars, our government had the ability to freeze them, of course. So why in the world would they want to keep doing this? And there you go. They started thinking, wait a second, if the U.S. can do that to Russia, a nuclear superpower, they can do that to anyone, even us, its own citizens. And that's why an increasing number of nations from Asia to Europe, Latin America have recently announced plans to dump the U.S. dollar and instead trade in their own local currency. And a lot of people went to Bitcoin. A lot of people are going to everything else besides the U.S. dollar. And that shows you how the dollar is very, very worthless, to say the least, because it's only as strong as people think it is. If people start to think the dollar's not strong, it literally is not strong because it's not backed by anything. If it was backed by gold and silver, it would make sense. So anyways, he goes on to say China and Russia have normally used dollars to buy stuff from each other. Past year, volumes of trade using their own currencies increased 80-fold. 8,000% increase. So it shows about Saudi Arabia. De-dollarization is real. It's happening fast. 10 times faster than the previous 2 decades. And then central banks are dumping the U.S. dollar. Look at this chart right here. Wow. So, and right, this is a good point. Most Americans don't realize this is a huge deal. And that's why our government has been able to spend money like drunken sailors without having to worry about any consequences. That is so true. And I'm just kind of scrolling through and seeing, I'm trying to highlight the main stuff because, like I said, there is a lot to talk about. This is pretty interesting. If we had another pandemic, Fed could just deposit stimulus checks into every U.S. citizen's digital currency account. If the economy is running too hot, they could do the opposite. They could freeze a portion of your money to reduce consumer spending. That's a good point. Do you think they'd like to have that kind of power? Of course. I mean, do you remember like Kanye West got his bank account frozen from his controversial stuff? Someone else did as well. But then he goes on, Andrew Tate. Anyways, he goes on to say, regardless of what you think about CBDCs, that's the future of money, and nobody can stop this trend. Wall Street Journal says central bank digital currencies are coming, whether countries are ready or not. So, so there's just so much information. This video is already very long, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But I will post the link to this article in the description if you guys want to check it out yourself. I highly recommend it. If you guys want to take his advice, see, there you go. I'm not trying to sell you anything like that. I just wanted to show you the, the information of this stuff. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Remember, I'm doing a giveaway. Remember, go subscribe if you want a chance to win some silver shipped straight to your front doorstep. And go enter. The giveaway video is live, but I'll be picking the winner probably this week, maybe this weekend. So yeah, make sure you guys stay for that. But more importantly, you should subscribe because I post daily videos, you know? So yeah, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.